The first time my husband's new wife mocked me in public, I did not lower my head. I did not argue with her either. I simply smiled, placed my napkin across my lap, and looked at the man I had loved for 26 years. His name was Raymond Carter. Just 1 year earlier, Raymond and I had still been living together in our quiet home outside Atlanta, Georgia. We were both 52 years old. We had raised 2 children, paid off most of our mortgage, and built what I believed was a strong life. My name is Denise Carter. I am a Black American woman, born and raised in Georgia. I worked as a school secretary for nearly 20 years before opening a small catering business from my kitchen. People knew me for my baked chicken, macaroni and cheese, sweet potato pie, and the calm way I handled difficult situations. My mother used to say that dignity was something nobody could take unless you handed it to them. I remembered those words on the night Raymond's new wife laughed at me across a crowded restaurant. Her name was Vanessa. She was 37, stylish, confident, and always dressed as if someone might take her picture. She wore a bright red dress that evening, with gold earrings and a diamond bracelet Raymond had probably purchased. I had been invited to the dinner by our daughter, Camille. She was 24 and had recently become engaged. She wanted both sides of the family to meet before the wedding plans began. "Mom," Camille had said over the phone, "I know it may feel uncomfortable, but I need you there." I understood. This was not about Raymond or Vanessa, it was about our daughter, so I agreed. Before leaving my apartment, I stood in front of the mirror for several minutes. I wore a dark blue dress, simple pearl earrings, and the silver necklace Camille had given me for Mother's Day. My hair was styled in soft, natural curls around my face. I looked older than Vanessa, of course, but I did not feel ashamed of that. Every line near my eyes came from years of working, worrying, laughing, and loving my family. The restaurant was warm and expensive, with quiet piano music and soft lights over every table. I arrived early and took a seat beside Camille. Raymond entered 15 minutes later with Vanessa holding his arm. He looked nervous when he saw me, but Vanessa smiled like she had already won some competition I had never agreed to enter. "Denise," Raymond said carefully, "you look well." "Thank you," I replied. "So do you." Vanessa leaned forward and touched my shoulder as if we were old friends. "Oh, Denise," she said, "you are so brave for coming." Her voice was sweet, but her meaning was not. I looked at her calmly. "This is my daughter's dinner. There is nowhere else I would rather be." Camille quickly changed the subject, and everyone began introducing themselves. For a while, the evening remained peaceful. Then the waiter brought the menus. Vanessa looked at mine and laughed softly. "Do you need help reading the small print? Raymond told me you never liked fancy places." Raymond stared down at the table. I answered quietly, "I can read it just fine." A few minutes later, Vanessa began talking about the new house she and Raymond were planning to buy. She described the large kitchen, the stone counters, and the dining room where she would host important people. Then she looked directly at me. "Raymond says you used to cook for money," she said. "That must have been exhausting, standing over a hot stove all day." The table became silent. Camille's face tightened. "Vanessa, my mother owns a catering company." Vanessa waved her hand. "Of course." I did not mean anything bad. I just admire women who are comfortable doing ordinary work. I could feel everyone watching me. They expected anger, maybe tears. Instead, I took a slow sip of water. "My work paid for Camille's college education," I said. "It also helped Raymond start his first business when the bank refused him a loan." Raymond's head lifted immediately. Vanessa's smile weakened, but only for a moment. "Well," she said, "people sometimes outgrow their beginnings." I looked at Raymond again. He still said nothing. That silence hurt more than Vanessa's words. For 26 years, I had protected Raymond's pride. I had never told our children how many times my catering money saved us. I had never told his friends that the first office he rented was paid for with money I earned cooking meals late at night. But as dinner continued, I began to understand something. Vanessa was not mocking me because she knew who I was. She was mocking me because Raymond had never told her. And before that dinner was over, the truth he had hidden was going to walk through the restaurant door. The restaurant door opened just as the waiter placed bread on our table. A tall man in a dark gray suit stepped inside, looked around the room, and then smiled when he saw me. His name was Marcus Hill. He was the owner of Hillstone Events, one of the largest event companies in Atlanta. I had worked with Marcus for nearly 6 years. He walked toward our table with his wife beside him. Vanessa noticed him first. Her posture changed immediately. She sat straighter and adjusted the gold bracelet on her wrist. "Marcus Hill," she whispered to Raymond. "He handles events for some of the biggest companies in the city." Raymond glanced toward him. "I know who he is." Marcus stopped beside me and opened his arms. "Denise Carter," he said warmly. "I have been trying to reach you all week." I stood and hugged him gently. "Marcus, this is a surprise." His wife smiled at me. "We could not leave without saying hello. Marcus still talks about the food you prepared for our anniversary." Vanessa looked between us, clearly confused. Marcus turned toward the table. "I hope I am not interrupting." "No," Camille said. "Please join us for a moment." I introduced everyone. When I reached Vanessa, I kept my voice polite. "This is Raymond's wife, Vanessa." Marcus's expression changed for only a second. He knew my history with Raymond, but he did not ask questions. Vanessa smiled brightly. "I have heard wonderful things about your company." "Thank you," Marcus replied. Then he turned back to me. "Denise, have you thought about my offer?" Raymond looked at me. "What offer?" I had not planned to discuss business that night, but Marcus answered before I could. "We want Denise to become our main catering partner," he said. "Hillstone is opening 2 new event spaces, and her company is our first choice." Vanessa's eyes widened. Marcus continued. "It would mean weddings, business dinners, charity events, and private celebrations throughout the year." Camille reached for my hand. "Mom, that is wonderful." I smiled. "I have been thinking about it." Marcus nodded. "Think carefully, but do not wait too long. We need someone reliable, and your work speaks for itself." He and his wife said goodbye and returned to their table. For several seconds, nobody at our table spoke. Vanessa looked down at her menu. Her earlier confidence had disappeared, but I could tell she was trying to recover it. "That sounds nice," she said at last. "Although bigger jobs usually mean bigger risks." I nodded. "That is true." Raymond leaned toward me. "How large is the contract?" His question did not surprise me. Raymond had always understood numbers better than feelings. "I have not signed anything," I said, "but you know the value." I looked at him calmly. "Enough to move my company into a professional kitchen and hire more staff." Camille smiled with pride. Vanessa gave a small laugh. "Well, I suppose cooking can be profitable after all." That sentence finally caused Camille to put down her fork. "Why do you keep speaking to my mother that way?" Vanessa blinked. "I am only making conversation." "No," Camille said. "You are trying to embarrass her." Raymond shifted in his chair. "Camille, let us not ruin the dinner." My daughter looked at him with disbelief. "Dad, she has insulted Mom since we sat down, and you have not said one word." His face tightened. I placed my hand over Camille's. "This dinner is for you. Let us stay calm." She looked at me, hurt showing in her eyes. "You should not always have to be the calm one." Her words stayed with me. For years, I had believed peace meant swallowing pain before anyone else could taste it. I thought keeping my voice low made me strong. But sometimes silence does not protect a family. Sometimes it protects the person causing the harm. The waiter returned and took our orders. Vanessa chose the most expensive steak on the menu. Raymond ordered the same. I ordered grilled salmon while Camille barely looked at her food. As we waited, Vanessa turned toward me again. "So, Denise," she said, "where exactly are you living now?" "In an apartment near Decatur." She tilted her head. "That must be quite a change after living in Raymond's house." I felt a quiet coldness settle inside me. Raymond's house, the home where I had raised our children, the home where I had painted walls, planted flowers, and stayed awake beside Raymond when his business nearly failed. Before I could answer, Camille spoke. "It was Mom's house, too," Vanessa smiled. "Legally, perhaps, but Raymond kept it after the divorce." Raymond looked uncomfortable but remained silent again. I folded my hands in my lap. "Yes," I said, "Raymond kept the house." Vanessa leaned back, pleased with herself. What she did not know was that I had agreed to leave it behind for a reason, and before dinner ended, Raymond would have to explain that reason in front of everyone. Vanessa smiled as though she had won another small victory. She lifted her glass and looked around the table with quiet satisfaction. Raymond still avoided my eyes. Camille sat stiffly beside me, trying to control her frustration. I could have corrected Vanessa immediately. I could have told her why I had walked away from the house without a fight. But I had never believed in exposing private family matters in public. Then someone else made that decision for me. My son, Jordan, hurried into the restaurant with his wife, Alicia. They had been delayed because of traffic. Jordan was 28, tall like his father, with the same deep brown eyes. The moment he saw the tension at the table, his smile faded. "I'm so sorry we're late," he said before taking his seat. "Did we miss anything?" No one answered. Jordan looked at Camille, then at me. "What happened?" Camille let out a slow breath. "Vanessa has been making little comments about Mom all evening." Jordan's face hardened. Vanessa laughed lightly. "I think your sister is being too sensitive." Jordan turned toward her. "I don't." The table fell silent again. Vanessa crossed her arms. "I only said Denise moved into an apartment after the divorce. That's true." Jordan nodded slowly. "Yes, she did." Vanessa smiled. "So I don't understand why everyone is upset." Jordan looked directly at Raymond. "Dad, are you going to tell her or should I?" Raymond's shoulders dropped. "Jordan," "No," my son interrupted quietly. "You've stayed silent long enough." Vanessa frowned. "Tell me what?" Jordan leaned forward. "My mother didn't lose that house." She blinked. "What do you mean?" "She gave it away." Vanessa looked confused. Raymond finally spoke. "Jordan," but my son continued. "When Dad's business nearly collapsed 15 years ago, the bank was preparing to take everything." Vanessa slowly turned toward Raymond. "I've never heard this story." "Because Dad never tells it." Jordan's voice remained calm. "Mom used every dollar she had saved from her catering business. She emptied her retirement account. She even borrowed against her own life insurance policy." I lowered my eyes. Those had been frightening months. Some nights I had cried quietly in the bathroom so the children would not hear me. Jordan continued. "That money kept Dad's company alive." Vanessa stared at Raymond. "Is that true?" He answered so softly that she almost missed it. "Yes." Jordan wasn't finished. "When my parents divorced, Mom could have forced the sale of the house. Legally, she owned half." Vanessa looked at me with surprise. "But she didn't." I finally spoke. "Your father wanted to keep the house because he believed it would help both of you children feel stable whenever you visited." Jordan nodded. "Mom signed the papers without asking for another dollar." Camille wiped a tear from her cheek. She even paid the attorney herself. Vanessa's confident smile disappeared completely. She looked at Raymond. "You never told me any of this." He rubbed his forehead. "I didn't think it mattered." For the first time that evening, I felt disappointed instead of hurt. 26 years of marriage had been reduced to a story that no longer mattered. Marcus had been right. People only know what they are told. Vanessa had judged me because she had only heard one side. She believed Raymond had built everything alone. She believed I had simply been his former wife. She never knew I had been his partner. The waiter arrived carrying our meals. No one touched their food. Vanessa looked down at her plate before speaking again. I honestly thought. She stopped. For the first time all evening, she had no clever words. Jordan looked at her calmly. My mother never talks about what she sacrificed. Camille added quietly, she protects people, even when they don't deserve it. Those words landed harder than anyone expected, especially Raymond. He slowly looked at me. His eyes were filled with something I had not seen in years, not love, not anger. Shame. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to explain himself. But before he could speak, another familiar voice came from behind our table. Denise! I turned around. Standing there was someone Raymond never expected to see. And the expression on his face told me he already knew the rest of the evening was about to change forever. I turned in my chair and immediately recognized the voice. Mrs. Denise Carter. It was David Reynolds. For a moment, I could only smile. David had once been Raymond's business partner. He was now the president of one of Atlanta's fastest-growing construction companies. The last time I had seen him was nearly 3 years earlier at a charity fundraiser where my catering company had provided dinner. David walked toward our table with a warm smile. I thought that was you, he said. I almost walked past without saying hello. He shook my hand with both of his. It's good to see you again. You too, David. Then his eyes moved to Raymond. Well, this is unexpected. Raymond stood awkwardly. Hello, David. David nodded politely before looking back at me. I still tell people about the day you saved our company. Vanessa frowned. Our company? David looked surprised. You don't know the story? No one answered. He pulled out an empty chair for a moment, resting one hand on its back. Years ago, Raymond and I were close to shutting the business down. We had missed payroll twice. Suppliers were refusing deliveries. Everyone thought we were finished. He smiled gently at me. Except Denise. I lowered my eyes. That was a long time ago. David shook his head. Some things deserve to be remembered. The restaurant around us seemed to disappear. Even the piano music felt distant. David continued. She spent 3 nights cooking meals for a city festival. She barely slept. Every dollar she earned went straight into keeping the company alive. He looked at Raymond. You remember that check she handed us? Raymond nodded silently. David smiled. I do too. Without Denise, there would never have been a company for either of us. Vanessa slowly turned toward Raymond. You told me you built everything yourself. Raymond closed his eyes for a second. I left parts of the story out. David looked genuinely confused. Left parts out? He laughed softly, though there was sadness in it. Raymond, everyone who worked with you knew Denise was your silent partner. She wasn't listed on the paperwork, but she carried that business through its hardest years. I felt every eye at the table on me. For years, I had never wanted recognition. I only wanted honesty. David smiled at Camille and Jordan. You should be proud of your mother. Jordan answered immediately. We are. Camille squeezed my hand. Always. David checked his watch. I should let you enjoy your dinner. Denise, call me next week. I have another corporate event that needs your catering. I will. After he walked away, silence returned. But this silence was different. It no longer belonged to me. It belonged to Raymond. Vanessa slowly removed her hand from his arm. She looked at him as if she were seeing a stranger. You lied to me. Raymond rubbed his forehead. I wasn't trying to lie. No, her voice stayed calm, but disappointment filled every word. You let me believe Denise depended on you. He said nothing. You let me joke about her work. Still nothing. You watched me embarrass myself. Raymond looked across the table at me. I should have stopped it. Yes, I answered quietly. You should have. He swallowed hard. I was ashamed. I looked at him for several long seconds. At me? No, his voice cracked slightly. At myself. The words hung between us. For the first time since our divorce, Raymond wasn't protecting his pride, he was facing it. I spent years convincing myself that I became successful on my own, he admitted. It was easier than admitting how much I depended on you. I nodded slowly. I already knew that. His eyes filled with regret. I don't expect forgiveness. I know. Vanessa looked down at her untouched dinner, then she turned toward me. Denise! Her confident smile was gone. So is my pride. She took a slow breath. I owe you an apology. I could see tears gathering in her eyes, not because she had been embarrassed, because she had finally understood the truth. And before the night ended, she was about to say something I never expected to hear. Vanessa looked at me for a long moment before she finally spoke. I'm sorry. Her voice was quiet. There was no pride left in it. I judged you without knowing you. I believed a story that was never complete. I mocked a woman who deserved my respect. The restaurant felt strangely peaceful. No one rushed to speak. No one interrupted. I simply looked at her and saw something different from the woman who had walked into the restaurant 2 hours earlier. She was no longer trying to prove she had won. She was trying to understand where she had gone wrong. I can't change what I said, she continued, but if I could take those words back, I would. I nodded gently. Thank you for saying that. She looked surprised. That's all, I smiled softly. What else should I ask for? She lowered her eyes. I don't know. I've spent too many years carrying heavy things, I answered. I don't want to carry anger too. The tension around the table slowly disappeared. Even Camille let out a long breath. Jordan reached for his wife's hand and smiled at me with quiet pride. Then Raymond cleared his throat. Denise, I looked at him. I owe you more than an apology. He paused, searching for the right words. I spent years accepting credit that belonged to both of us. I remained silent. You stood beside me when I had nothing. You believed in me when I had stopped believing in myself. I should have thanked you every single day. His eyes became wet. Instead, I acted like I reached the finish line alone. I could see how difficult those words were for him. Some people apologize easily. Others spend years fighting their own pride before they can speak the truth. I forgive you, I said quietly, his head lifted. But forgiveness doesn't erase the past. I know. It simply means I refuse to let the past control my future. He nodded slowly. I understand. For the first time since our divorce, I believed he truly did. The waiter returned carrying dessert. No one had touched it yet. A small chocolate cake sat in the center of the table. Camille laughed softly. I think this cake has survived more family drama than any dessert should. Everyone smiled, even Raymond. The laughter wasn't loud. It wasn't forced. It simply reminded us that healing often begins with one small moment. As dinner came to an end, Marcus walked past our table once more. Denise, he called with a grin, don't forget our meeting Monday morning. I'll be there. I already know you'll do amazing things. After he left, Camille wrapped her arm around my shoulder. I'm proud of you, Mom. What for? For showing me what real strength looks like. I kissed her forehead. Real strength isn't about winning an argument. What is it then? It's knowing who you are even when someone else tries to tell you who you should be. On the drive home, I rolled down the car window and let the warm Georgia evening air fill the silence. For the first time in years, my heart felt light. Not because the past had changed. It never would. Not because everyone suddenly admired me. That wasn't important either. My peace came from something much simpler. The truth had finally spoken for itself. I didn't have to defend my life. I didn't have to compete with anyone. The people who truly mattered now understood my story. A few months later, I signed the partnership with Hillstone Events. My catering company grew faster than I had ever imagined. I hired 6 employees, opened my own commercial kitchen, and trained young women who dreamed of starting businesses of their own. Sometimes success arrives quietly. Sometimes respect takes years to find its way back. And sometimes the person who tries to make you feel small only reveals how strong you have been all along. If my journey has taught me anything, it is this: never measure your worth by someone else's opinion. The people who know only one chapter of your life can never understand the whole story. Walk with kindness, stand with dignity, and remember that the truth does not need to shout. Sooner or later, it always finds its own voice.